Hello students, welcome to Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. I'll be teaching you literature, and today we want to look at a very important topic in literature: dramatic devices.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
At the end of this lesson, you will be able to define dramatic devices. You'll be able to identify and explain different dramatic devices. And of course, you'll be able to use some of these devices in creative writing. Let's continue. Definition of dramatic devices. Dramatic devices are elements or techniques used by the playwright to enhance the quality of the play. Most times, dramatic techniques are used for effect, just to make sure that the play is enjoyable. And some of these dramatic devices includes: 1. Dramatic irony. Dramatic irony. What is dramatic irony? This is when the audience or the listener is aware of something that a character or group of characters are not aware of. When the audience or the reader knows something that the characters on stage do not know. You see, the playwright has used the device known as dramatic irony. And then note that usually the character's actions contradict the audience's expectations. So, you know that thing that happens when you are reading a text and you know what has happened earlier in the text, but there's a particular character on stage who do not know, and because of that, it does things against what you expect or against your expectation. You begin to react as though, to try to correct the character, but that's not possible, of course. This effect is known as dramatic irony. Okay, you can see the expression of the person on the screen. The person looks like, no, this should not be happening. That's because she knows more than the characters. Okay. We have another here, soliloquy. Soliloquy. This happens when a character talks loudly to himself on stage. And as a result, his thoughts, his plans, and tendencies are made known to the audience. It's a very, very simple device to understand. However, one must be careful not to mistake it with another kind of device. That's why it must be explained. In this case, a character is alone on stage and talks to himself. So you say he's soliloquizing. He talks to himself. And what is the essence of this talking? He reveals his plans, his intentions, of course, which are always hidden, and then allows the audience to be aware of what he is planning, even though other characters do not know what he is planning or what kind of person he is. All right. Next, we have aside. Aside. Look at the picture on the board. You discover that there are other people behind this man, but this man is looking straight at the audience. That tells you that he has separated himself from other characters on stage and now is addressing the audience. So the belief here is that other characters behind him cannot hear what he is saying at all. So when a playwright writes and creates a space such that one character talks directly to the audience without the knowledge of other characters on stage, we call that an aside. An aside. Of course, there's another kind of aside where there are several characters on stage, but one character steps aside to pass an information to another character with the imagination or understanding that other characters cannot hear what he has told the other character. That's also a kind of aside. Let's continue. Then we have suspense. Suspense. I'm sure you have heard this word again and again many times. In drama, it's not too different from what you already know. This happens in a play when actions or results of actions are prolonged or delayed. The playwright does this to sustain the reader's interest. Now, do not forget that when it comes to plays or dramas, they can be read in a book and they can be watched on the screen. You know, when you're watching a movie and you just want to know what will happen next or what will happen later, you know, your curiosity is aroused when actions are delayed, and that curiosity is what is called suspense. The same thing happens when you read a drama text. You just want to know what's going to happen at the end. And of course, the playwright does that to sustain the reader's attention, to make sure that you are, your concentration is fixed. Now, we have another which is called comic relief. This device is used to erase the tension that is already built up in the audience's mind. Okay? And the playwright does this mainly by introducing funny characters, clowns, or clowns like you can see on the screen, or some ridiculous actions. Many times, comic relief is introduced in a tragic play, or tragedy, as you would call it. You know, when you have watched a scene and your mind is already full of grief or even tension because you want to know whether your best character will be rescued or not. And then all of a sudden, the playwright introduces a funny scene, maybe a scene of somebody who slips and falls and everybody laughs, and then the tension in your heart is removed. This is what we call comic relief. All right, let's see. We have others, which includes foreshadowing or foretelling. Sometimes the playwright does this trickily, such that you will not even be able to detect that he has done that. It tells you what will happen later, but maybe not directly. You could use dreams, you could use just mere conversations, and then it tells you what is to come in the play. Foretelling or foreshadowing. It's a device. And then we also have flashback. And it's a recall of events, past events in the play. I'm sure you are familiar when you say that a story has been told before or retold. But in a play, something has happened before, and then a character begins to talk about it again, probably at a point that we are not aware of in his life, or something that we are even aware of earlier in the play. For instance, in Faces by August Wilson, Troy tries to tell us how he became a prisoner and how his life had been before he got married and settled with his family. And he uses a flashback to tell us the kind of person his father is or was, and how he had a change of life. It was through a flashback that we found that out. All right. Let's look at the practice question here. Examine the use of dramatic irony in Look Back in Anger by John Osborne. Examine the use of dramatic irony in Look Back in Anger by John Osborne. Do not forget that you don't start writing just immediately. You start out by identifying the themes that are related to the question. There are a number of ironies that are used by the playwright for effect in this play. One of the ironies is the irony of Elena coming to stay in Allison's house, and then she's expected to leave the next day. But she ends up staying there and even taking over the house, taking over her husband. Meanwhile, this same man, Jimmy, had been condemned by Elena earlier for his actions and inactions and, his often frustration. And it's so surprising that the same Elena is now in a relationship with Jimmy and staying with him. That's a total irony. And that was used to foreground the theme of sexual immorality or infidelity. Okay? So there are themes that you find in the text, you identify them, you discuss what the story is all about, and then tell us the themes that can be found. Then you go ahead to mention these ironies one after the other. I just mentioned one, Elena's case. Another is that situation or that time when Alison breaks the news to Cliff that Jimmy found out on her wedding night that she was a virgin. And instead of Jimmy to be excited at at this discovery, he was rather angry, and he thought that his private morality had been violated. That's ironical. It's total irony. Okay, that's another irony in the play. And there are other kinds of ironies that you would want to identify. Okay, and then after you have answered and listed your points, then give a conclusion. Ensure that you conclude properly. Okay, all right. Thank you very much for listening. If you have comments or questions, please reach us on our social media handles displayed on the screen.
Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO Candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.